Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're not just going to talk about creativity, we're going to try to engineer it. Yeah, you heard that right. We're decoding the actual blueprint for genius. All right, so let's jump right in. And to do that, we have to go back in time. Way back. 72,000 years ago, to be exact. Picture this, a cave on the coast of South Africa with the view of the Indian Ocean. Something was found there that basically rewrote the story of us, of when we truly became human. So what did they find? Well, they dug up 41 teeny tiny snail shells, each one carefully pierced, almost definitely strung together to be worn as beads. And next to them, a piece of red ochre stone with this really precise geometric cross-hatched pattern carved into it. Now think about that. This wasn't a spearhead, it wasn't for hunting. This was art. It was a symbol. It was proof of a creative explosion happening way earlier than anyone ever imagined. And you know, a finds like that just forces you to ask a really big question. Is this kind of creative leap, is it just a random spark? You know, some magical lightning bolt of inspiration? Or is there a process to it? Something with a structure that we can actually understand and maybe, just maybe, replicate ourselves? Well, it turns out there's a map for this stuff. A cognitive scientist named Margaret Bowden came up with this amazing framework that breaks creativity down into 3 really distinct pathways. You can think of them as 3 different roads to that aha moment. Okay, road number 1 is called combinational creativity, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's about mashing up ideas you already have in brand new ways. Take the AI that recognizes images. The early networks that cracked that problem, they weren't some totally new invention. Nope, they were just a really smart combination of a couple of existing ideas. Then you've got road number 2, exploratory creativity. This is all about taking a system that already exists, you know, a set of rules, a style of art, whatever, and just pushing it as far as it can possibly go. The classic example here is Beethoven. He didn't invent a whole new way of writing music, but man, did he take the existing rules and stretch them right to the breaking point. He basically explored every hidden corner of that musical space. And that brings us to the third and honestly the most profound path, transformational creativity. We're not talking about bending the rules anymore. This is about shattering them. It's about inventing a completely new game. Think about what Darwin did with natural selection. He didn't just find a new animal. He created an entirely new way of thinking about life itself, opening the door to ideas that were literally unthinkable before. So here's the bottom line. These 3 types aren't just academic labels. They're a roadmap. You can see how one leads to the next. You've got combining existing ideas, like the internet. You've got exploring the limits of a system, like Beethoven did. And then you have completely rewriting the rules, like with CRISPR gene editing. It shows you the whole spectrum, from simple connections to ideas that literally change the world. Okay, so that's the theory. It's cool, right? But how do we actually use it? How do we take this framework and turn it into a practical, step-by-step blueprint for having our own breakthrough ideas? First up is a protocol for building what you might call systematic breath. This is all about feeding that combinational creativity we talked about. The trick is to have a few totally unrelated fields that you're learning about at the same time. So maybe you're deep in your main field, but you're also reading about, marine biology and ancient history. Then you actively try to connect them. Ask yourself, how can I apply a concept from marine biology to my work? It sounds kind of weird, but this is how you create that fertile ground for those brilliant, unexpected ideas. All right, next up, a protocol for that exploratory creativity. This is all about pushing the boundaries, literally. What I want you to do is think about your field and make a list of all the things it never does, the questions it never asks. Why is that? What are those taboos? By intentionally playing around in that forbidden space at the very edges of what everyone thinks is normal, you start to map out the unexplored territory where the really cool stuff is hiding. Now, these human techniques are awesome. They really are. But today we have a secret weapon, a force multiplier. And that is, of course, AI. You can think of modern AI as a kind of cognitive disinhibition engine. It's here to supercharge this entire process. I mean, let's be honest. Our human brains, as amazing as they are, have some serious limitations. We're afraid of looking stupid, so we censor bad ideas. We get stuck in mental ruts. Our working memory is tiny. AI? It doesn't have any of those problems. It can spit out 1,000 terrible ideas just to get to one good one. And it doesn't care. It can spot when it's fixated on one path, and it can iterate at a speed that is just inhuman. And you can see this in the data. It's wild. When you test different AI frameworks that are built for creativity, they have what's called a high H yield. Now that's just a fancy term for how often they come up with an idea that is genuinely new, like new to human history. And what's really interesting is that Landgraf, which has these built-in self-critique loops, comes out on top. It just goes to show how powerful this kind of uninhibited, automated exploration can be. So the strategy here is actually pretty simple, and it's almost a numbers game. You use the AI to just generate this massive, unfiltered flood of ideas, a total brain dump. You tell it absurdity is welcome. And then after you have this mountain of noise, you bring in a second layer, either a smart human or another AI, to act as a filter, to pan for the gold. And what happens is genius just emerges. It becomes a statistical inevitability. But here's the thing. This isn't just about one person or even one AI having a great idea. Genius doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? To get real breakthroughs, you need an entire environment, a whole culture that's built to encourage this stuff. Let me give you a perfect example. Back in the 90s, Carnegie Mellon had one of the best computer science programs in the world, but they had a huge problem. They were great at getting women to enroll, but then they were dropping out at a much higher rate than the men. And on the surface, it looked like a classic culture problem. But here's where it gets really interesting. When they actually looked at the data, the assumption was totally wrong. There wasn't some big gender divide in what people were interested in. As you can see right here, both men and women were into the exact same things. The cool applications, the problem solving. So the curriculum, that wasn't the issue at all. So what did they do? Something totally brilliant. Instead of tweaking the classes to be more female-friendly, whatever that means, they focused on engineering the culture. They started this group, Women at SCS, and its whole purpose was to build community, create mentoring networks, and just provide support. They didn't change the what, they changed the how. And in doing so, they created the perfect environment for the creativity we've been talking about, right? A place where different people could connect and combine ideas, and a place that felt safe enough to explore those crazy edge case ideas. And the results were, well, they were transformative. By architecting a more supportive and inclusive culture, they suddenly had a place where all kinds of talented people could succeed, no matter what stereotypes were out there. It was proof positive that genius isn't just about having a smart brain. It's about the entire cultural system you build around that brain. So think about the journey we've just been on. We went from ancient beads in a cave to the fundamental structure of a creative thought, to AI that can dream up ideas, and all the way to engineering a creative culture. The pattern, when you see it, is so clear. Genius isn't some random spark of magic. It's a system. It can be engineered. The blueprint is right here in front of you. So the only real question left is, what impossible thing are you going to architect with it?